Greenland was the United States' backup plan for a global war. And right now, as you watch this, it still is. In 1941, the Pentagon looked at a map and realized something terrifying. If the Soviet Union ever attacked, America needed an insurance policy written in ice. What they built there changed warfare forever. But the wildest part is what's happening there today. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Greenland might be the single most strategic piece of land on Earth, and why superpowers are quietly fighting over it right now. Most people think Greenland is just ice and emptiness. That's exactly what military planners want you to believe. The reality is Greenland sits at the intersection of 3 oceans and controls the shortest route between North America and Europe. During World War II, German submarines prowled the North Atlantic, sinking Allied ships by the hundreds. Britain was starving. America needed a safe corridor to send supplies, and Greenland was the only answer. Danish forces couldn't defend it, so the United States quietly moved in and built a network of bases across the island. These weren't temporary camps. They were permanent installations designed for one purpose: to win a war that hadn't started yet. But here's where it gets strange. After World War II ended, the bases didn't close. They expanded. By 1951, the Cold War was freezing into position, and American strategists realized Greenland offered something no other territory could provide: early warning. If Soviet bombers came screaming over the Arctic, Greenland's radar stations would see them first. And in a nuclear age, those extra minutes meant survival. So the Pentagon built Thule Air Base, one of the most remote and critical installations in American military history. It's still operational today, and what's stationed there will surprise you in a moment. Now think about geography for a second. Greenland is closer to Moscow than most of the continental United States. It's also closer to Washington than Hawaii. This massive island, bigger than Alaska, sits like a frozen aircraft carrier in the North Atlantic. During the Cold War, both superpowers understood that whoever controlled Greenland controlled the polar air routes. The United States military constructed dozens of installations, some public, others classified. They built entire towns under the ice, developed nuclear-powered radar systems, and even planned to install ballistic missiles directly into the permafrost. One project, called Camp Century, claimed to be a scientific research station. The truth was far more ambitious. Camp Century was a city built inside the Greenland ice sheet. Tunnels stretched for miles, powered by a portable nuclear reactor. The official story said scientists were studying Arctic conditions. Declassified documents revealed the real plan: Project Iceworm, a network of mobile nuclear missile launchers hidden under the ice, designed to survive a Soviet first strike and retaliate from positions the enemy couldn't map or destroy. The project failed because the ice moved faster than engineers expected, crushing tunnels and making missile deployment impossible. But the fact that America even attempted this shows how vital Greenland was to Cold War strategy. And here's the unsettling part. Some of those tunnels still exist, slowly being crushed by glaciers, while the abandoned nuclear reactor remains buried somewhere beneath the ice. Fast forward to today, and Greenland is more important than ever. Climate change is melting the ice sheet, opening new shipping routes and exposing resources that were locked away for millennia. Rare earth minerals, essential for smartphones, electric vehicles, and military technology, lie beneath Greenland's surface in quantities that rival China's reserves. Whoever controls those minerals controls the future of technology. China knows this. Russia knows this. And the United States definitely knows this. In 2019, reports emerged that President Trump inquired about purchasing Greenland from Denmark. The Danish Prime Minister called the idea absurd, but behind the diplomatic theater, serious people were asking serious questions. What happens when Greenland becomes economically independent and starts choosing its own allies? Because here's what nobody talks about. Greenland is not actually part of Denmark anymore. Not really. It gained self-government decades ago and controls its own natural resources. The population is only 56,000 people, mostly Inuit communities who have lived there for centuries. They've seen colonizers come and go. First the Norse Vikings, then Danish colonists, then American soldiers. Many Greenlanders want full independence, but independence requires money. Denmark provides billions in subsidies every year. If Greenland finds a new patron, one willing to pay for mining rights and infrastructure, the geopolitical map shifts overnight. China has already started investing. Chinese companies have proposed mining projects, airport construction, and research stations. The United States quietly pressured Denmark to reject these deals, but the pressure revealed something uncomfortable. America treats Greenland like strategic property, not as a sovereign people with their own future. Let's zoom out to the military side, because this is where things get really tense. Thule Air Base, that installation built in the 1950s, is now home to the most advanced missile warning systems on the planet. It's part of the United States Space Force, tracking everything from intercontinental ballistic missiles to satellites. If Russia or China launches anything toward North America, Thule sees it first. The base is so critical that the United States maintains it as a treaty obligation with Denmark, ensuring American forces have permanent access regardless of Greenland's political status. Essentially, Greenland's independence is limited by the fact that a foreign military controls the most important piece of its territory. Now, consider the Arctic itself. The polar ice cap is disappearing faster than any climate model predicted. By 2050, some experts believe the Arctic Ocean will be navigable year-round. That means shipping routes between Asia and Europe could cut through the top of the world, saving weeks of travel time and trillions in shipping costs. Greenland sits right in the middle of these routes. Whoever controls Greenland controls the Arctic corridor. Russia has already militarized its Arctic coastline, building new bases and deploying icebreakers. China, despite being nowhere near the Arctic, declared itself a near-Arctic nation and started investing heavily in polar research. The United States, meanwhile, has exactly 2 functioning icebreakers, while Russia has more than 40. America is losing the Arctic race, and Greenland is the only card it has left to play. But there's a darker element to this story. During the Cold War, the United States military lost 4 nuclear bombs near Greenland. Yes, you heard that right. 4. In 1968, a B-52 bomber carrying nuclear weapons crashed near Thule Air Base. The bombs broke apart on impact, scattering radioactive plutonium across the ice. The military cleaned up most of it, or so they claimed. Danish and Greenlandic officials later discovered that one of the bombs was never fully recovered. Parts of a hydrogen bomb are still somewhere in the ocean near Thule, buried under ice and sediment. The Pentagon has never publicly confirmed this, but declassified reports and investigative journalism pieced together what happened. Imagine living in a place where foreign powers fought a secret war, lost nuclear weapons, and built cities under the ice without asking permission. The Greenlandic people have their own perspective on all this. For generations, they've watched outsiders extract value from their land while providing little in return. The Danish colonial period was brutal. Children were taken from families and forced into Danish schools to erase their culture. American military expansion displaced entire communities. Thule Air Base was built on land inhabited by Inuit hunters, who were forced to relocate with minimal compensation. These aren't ancient grievances. Many of the people affected are still alive, still angry, and still waiting for justice. When outsiders talk about Greenland's strategic importance, Greenlanders hear the same colonial logic that justified centuries of exploitation. They want control over their own future, but that future is complicated by the fact that every superpower on Earth sees Greenland as a prize worth fighting for. So what happens next? Greenland is at a crossroads. It can remain a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, accepting subsidies in exchange for limited sovereignty. It can pursue full independence, risking economic collapse without a new patron. Or it can leverage its position, playing superpowers against each other to maximize benefits for its own people. Some Greenlandic politicians have floated the idea of closer ties with the United States, not as a sale, but as a partnership with significant financial investment. Others warn that any deal with America would simply replace Danish colonialism with American imperialism. Meanwhile, China waits patiently, offering infrastructure investments with no political strings attached, at least not publicly. The United States cannot afford to lose Greenland. Militarily, it's irreplaceable. Economically, it's too valuable. Strategically, it's the linchpin of Arctic dominance. But America also can't force Greenland to stay aligned. The days of gunboat diplomacy are over, mostly. Instead, the game is influence, investment, and persuasion. The Pentagon is already expanding its presence, upgrading radar systems and increasing reconnaissance flights. New agreements with Denmark ensure continued American access to Thule. But those agreements were negotiated without significant Greenlandic input, a detail that hasn't gone unnoticed in Nuuk, the capital. And then there's the environmental dimension. Greenland is melting. The ice sheet contains enough water to raise global sea levels by more than 20 feet. Coastal cities around the world are already planning for displacement. But while the ice melts, it reveals something else: land. Greenland is becoming more habitable, more accessible, and more economically viable. In 50 years, parts of Greenland might look like Iceland, with green valleys, growing populations, and thriving industries. That future Greenland will be unrecognizable from today's frozen expanse. And whoever builds the strongest relationship with Greenland now will reap the rewards then. Consider this: Greenland's population is smaller than a single neighborhood in most major cities, yet it controls an area larger than Mexico. That's an imbalance of power unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. If Greenland industrializes, if it develops its resources, if it builds the infrastructure to support a larger population, it could become one of the wealthiest nations per capita on the planet. But that transformation requires partners, and those partners will demand something in return. China wants minerals. Russia wants strategic positioning. The United States wants military access. Europe wants stability. Greenland wants respect, autonomy, and a future built by Greenlanders for Greenlanders. Balancing those interests is nearly impossible, but the consequences of failure are catastrophic. The backup plan isn't just about war anymore. It's about resources, shipping lanes, climate refugees, rare earth elements, and the future of global power. Greenland was supposed to be a footnote in Arctic history, a frozen wasteland mentioned only in geography class. Instead, it's becoming the center of a new great game, one where the stakes are higher than most people realize. The United States built Greenland into a military fortress because it had no choice. Now, it's trying to figure out how to keep that fortress relevant in a world where wars aren't fought with bombers, but with investments, treaties, and influence. If you found this deep dive into Arctic geopolitics as fascinating as I did researching it, consider subscribing. We explore the hidden strategies, forgotten conflicts, and surprising truths behind the maps we take for granted. Hit that like button if this changed how you see Greenland, and drop a comment answering this. If you were Greenland's leader, would you pursue full independence, strengthen ties with the United States, or explore partnerships with China? I'm genuinely curious what you think, because this isn't a hypothetical question anymore. Greenland's future will reshape global power, and that future is being decided right now. Link in the description for more on Arctic strategy and the new Cold War nobody's talking about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.